So I assume it's kind of funny. I was thinking about this. This got wiped away. No, you don't. I don't think about this too often, but I did today when I was at Barstool headquarters. There was a very funny video of Bill Burr exiting, and I was too cowardly to go up and talk to him because I'm such a big stand-up fan that I was very nervous. And I know Chris, being such a fan of film and acting, being in this room with Ted, I imagine that's kind of what that was like for you.
I met Ted at Saco, and I was starstruck. I mean, I did, I shook for a while. I had to be consoled, but then eventually I got to finally build up the courage to talk to the great Ted Sellers. How you doing, Ted?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Buddy, I wonder, my only real question is, will we be able to put our chemistry aside and let Chris in on that? I feel like it's going to be tough.
It's going to be a weird dynamic, but what better way to bridge the gap of the Cheers duo to bring in the other Chairs duo?
That's yin and yang, baby. You get right where I'm going. So
I feel like 1950s, like upstate New York, like really bad stand-up show right now. This is good.
It is a vaudeville act. Anytime I'm involved. But so we got a couple episodes of Cheers to cover here, and I feel like we're kind of hitting a groove. I like these episodes more than I have been negative the last few weeks. I feel like between the last episode we covered with Steve last week and these two, I think we're starting to hit a groove. Chris, do you agree?
I do. Yeah, these are the two higher ones for me, including one of them is the highest score I'm going to give out so far.
Oh my God.
Rare terrain here. No, but
Ted, I hope you're buckled into your chair because this is going to be
an
a crazy
exciting
ride.
everybody.
You know what? I decided to put the seatbelt back on because I knew how crazy you boys get on this show.
Buckle up, Ted. Good. I'm glad you buckled in. No, this is going to be these episodes are starting to get better. The characters are a lot more fleshed out. The storylines are a lot crisper. You definitely see a change between this and maybe the first couple.
Ted, as a guy, you're about my age. Were you a big Cheers fan?
So I actually told Chris in preparation for the show that I'm watching the show for the first time. You guys inspired me to get on board so I can keep up with your show.
This is this kind of story we were looking to produce.
I actually right now am wearing my Cheers shirt.
Oh my God,
So I came ready to play today.
This is a big win. This is a big win for Everybody Knows We're Lame. This is huge.
I haven't even finished season 1 yet. I'm caught up to what we're going to talk about. Don't worry. But
I told you, hey, Menners, you hear that? We're getting the kids involved. A new generation is coming to Cheers.
Ted, that shirt is getting the Fred Dryer Award for best thing I've seen all week. Congratulations.
Speaking of Menners, if this doesn't get us a 69 out of 100 score at least, then I don't know what will.
Is everyone following along the Menners scoring system? I feel like it's taking off.
It's not my scoring system. I invented it. It's mine.
No. I've only seen Menners do it. I think you're incorrect.
What the fuck? I did on this show.
I'm not sure about that.
The one thing I create on this goddamn thing, Menners steals it.
Actually, I think he gave Quantum Week Chris's scoring systems a 0 out of 100.
Yeah,
I like Menners. He's a funny guy.
No, Menners is the best. I love Menners.
So episode 9. My one criticism, I will say, not a ton of plot holes. You know, I'm a big plot hole guy. These 2 episodes, particularly this one, not a lot of plot holes. But I felt like it started, and this has been my complaint with a few episodes early on of Cheers. So I wonder if it was kind of a tack that the writers took on purpose. But it starts very slow, and it almost just feels like you're sitting in the bar waiting for something to happen. Did you feel that at all or no?
Yeah, I think that's kind of how these things go. You mentioned no plot holes. I kind of have a pretty big one. The entire plot itself is kind of odd.
Let me hear.
I don't think there's any way, and I guess it's good because she doesn't, I guess, technically go out with him, but there's no way this young woman who's 35 at the oldest is going to fuck Coach who's 65. No. Like, what are we doing here?
Right. Well, I did. I thought that was a great joke when Coach says the girl's a little younger than me. And the young girl walks in the door. I thought that was very funny.
That was great. I laughed out loud.
That was the first laugh out loud moment of the show. But Chris, I'm glad you dove right into the whole plot, because this is something that I don't think you'll see in the TV show today, especially in like a sitcom setting. Definitely not on like a CBS network like this one when it originally aired. but they almost, instead of going with like the old guy can't get with the young girl storyline, they kind of treat him like he's the special needs friend because what they do in this is we wouldn't have an episode if they didn't do this because there would be no drama and build up leading up to the end. But they kind of make him feel like he has a shot at this, which is just a really mean thing to do when you think about it.
It is. I agree.
And I thought it was very strange, especially because we've already established in prior episodes that Diane is a big mouth. So she can't bite her tongue on anything. So given that and the fact that they kind of look at Coach as, their special friend, I found it very odd that Diane wouldn't have pulled Sam aside and said, hey, Coach likes this girl, maybe lay off, instead of leaving this cloud of mystery. Why can't Sam hit on her? Like, that seemed very odd.
And she had a perfect moment, too, at the bar when it's just her and Sam. And he's basically saying, oh, I'm going to go hit on her. And she could have just easily been like, hey, Coach kind of likes her. And Sam would have been like, oh, okay. And then he probably wouldn't even have talked to her. But instead it goes into this, obviously whole spiral episode.
Now, can I give you, I want to see if you guys can figure out where this was in the episode, because I find this very strange. So apparently, I don't know if it still exists, but at one time at Disney World, there was an attraction called, I think, Superstar Television. I hope I'm getting that right. And where there are, like, I guess, iconic television scenes that you can go and act out. I'm assuming it's like a green screen, and maybe they give you an outfit you can throw on or something. Like, for example, one of the scenes is I Love Lucy, the conveyor belt scene.
Chocolates.
Yeah. So, pretty iconic scene. Another scene you could reenact is in this episode of Cheers. Does that make any sense to either of you?
But what's the scene?
I guess, according to my research, I guess it's the scene between Nina and Sam where Nina rejects him.
Really?
Oh, okay. Maybe because just Sam gets rejected is so odd. It's pretty rare.
I guess, but Diane rejects him a lot in the first season, and Rebecca.
Yeah. However,
it all seems very strange.
It does.
Diane is the exception to the rule, though, because we see him consistently draw interest from like every other girl on the show. Anybody that comes in the bar. So Diane rejecting him is like the ongoing thing. It's almost like his, white whale that he can't get.
I just imagine a family where there's like long lines maybe or something, and you go to Disney and that's the one thing you get to do. It's like, what a fucking letdown that would be. What would be, that seems like an odd thing to even conceive. That I get the I Love Lucy thing. That would be a cool video to have or something, or a picture. But this Cheers scene, I can't imagine wanting to do that.
But Mike, we would have killed it.
You're damn right we would have, buddy. Emmy award.
Yeah, that would have been great for sure. One thing I wanted to bring up was the bathroom in this episode. You finally see the Cheers men's room, which is pretty. I think it's a pretty shitty bathroom, which I think is you don't usually see on TV. Like that looks like the bathroom of a bar.
Yeah, I like that they did that. Carla actually had a couple funny lines in there. This wasn't Carla's worst episode. And I also thought that it was the first time they really incorporated Cliff. You kind of start to see Cliff develop a little more.
You do. You also see Diane develop. So typically with these episodes, Sam has been the steady character. He's been kind of the normal one, and everything kind of revolves around him, but he has to play the straight man almost the entire time. This is the first episode where Diane is actually the pivot person. And Sam is allowed to be crazy and weird, which is really fun because Ted Danson is such a good actor. So I really enjoyed seeing that flip. And Shelley Long is talented enough where she can carry an episode on her shoulders. So that was a fun switch.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I liked the ending with Coach falling down the stairs. I thought that was funny. But the one thing I keep coming back to, anytime Coach talks about his baseball career, I'm like, how the fuck did this guy have any sort of, how was he ever a coach? None of it. Coach's baseball career is absolutely baffling to me. I don't understand how he was on a roster.
Do you think that he fucked that woman? Did he go home and sleep?
No, I don't.
They allude to it at the end.
They allude to it, but I'll tell you, I think that's again Coach misreading the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think that woman then accused Coach of potentially trying to rape her? Did she? How does the night end? Does she slap him? Does he leave? Like, what? Does he just get handsy? What happens?
Well, Coach is a pretty nice and mild-mannered guy. What do you think?
Yes.
I think that he got the win that he wanted, where he got to leave with her in front of his friends.
Right.
And
Right.
I think we're not supposed to really think about it too far past that, because the way they wrote it was they did the callback joke, which thank God they did at the end, because it was kind of teetering on this is getting boring.
Yeah.
When the whole like last 5 minutes leading up to him falling down the stairs, it's just like if they're gonna end on this, it'd be kind of like a womp womp. But luckily they do the fall down the stairs thing. But I think we're supposed to stop the thought process right there. Coach got his win. We don't have to think about what happened in the awkward ride.
I would agree. I think he's a gentleman. He wants Sam to think he's cool, but I don't think he really cares about getting his dick wet that much. We learned, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, that Coach doesn't mind laying with ugly broads too, as his daughter taught us. So
I love that. I love that Ted's like we don't really it's not really that important to think about it. Have you not seen this show?
It's what we do. It's what we live for.
I'm just talking from like what they're intending for the audience.
Yeah, that's not what this show is. This show is to really dial down on minutia about Cheers.
Ted, I have ripped apart this series from it. Toe to tip.
You know what? He banged her.
Yeah,
he absolutely did. He popped a Viagra and he went to town, baby.
What
Warren's gonna take that.
Right there. It's done. It's done.
Will that add points to your score, Chris? If we know we banged her, what do you give this episode?
Oh, I give this episode a 74. I assume that he did not fuck her, so it's a 74 minus any intercourse.
I give it a 68. It was a good solid episode. Nothing too crazy. Oh, the other thing I should mention is I liked. It was kind of funny that the tour group kept coming in and the guy was just being lazy and saying this was a landmark. My one thing is, as a bar owner, why does the smart businessman would say, yeah, come on in. You shouldn't turn them away. Who gives a fuck if this guy's lying?
Totally agree. I was shocked. Like if you own, so I went to Sopranos Con and I went on the tour of Sopranos, and it ends at Holston's where the last scene of Sopranos is, and you get to sit in the booth the whole thing. They love it because you go in there, you have like basically 40 people coming to bus, they're all buying shit, and then they all leave. Like a tour guide, that's the greatest thing in the world. The idea that Sam would reject it is insane. No,
it made no sense. A bad business by my boy Sam, and he's usually always thinking business. Episode 10, I assume Chris was excited for because the first episode that was written by Sam Simon.
Sam Simon, yeah. So Sam Simon, just a quick, hopefully we'll talk more about Sam Simon because I think he's one of the most interesting people in show business, or at least in the last 40 years in television. He was a showrunner for Taxi before he was like 28. And then he ended up coming over to Cheers. He ended up co-creating The Simpsons with James L. Brooks and Matt Groening. Matt Groening and him had a huge fight. And Sam Simon left, but when he left, he negotiated a huge portion of Simpsons. So he got paid regardless of whether he helped create the shows or not beyond that. And he ended up being worth tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars. He ended up becoming a poker player, and then he died of cancer at 59.
Yeah.
Really bizarre, interesting career. But this is his first...
Am I getting this wrong? Because I've only heard a couple appearances of his from Howard Stern.
Yeah.
But was he kind of a miserable guy later in life? Or am I just basing that off of other people?
No, so he was the showrunner and co-creator for the George Carlin show. George Carlin show was on for one season on Fox in the mid 90s, and George Carlin said the show would have been great except the person I was doing business with. Yeah. Like, so George Carlin, who's known as kind of a sweetheart in show business, despite him kind of being a caustic comic.
Yeah, right.
It's like the one person he kind of trashed was Sam Simon. And so yeah, he was definitely a prickly guy, but he's super bright. He's like incredibly intelligent. He was married to Jennifer Tilly, and then they got divorced. And he was married to a Playboy playmate for 3 weeks. He used to go on Howard Stern. Right. He's this really interesting guy, and he's a brilliant writer. And this episode is an amazing episode of television, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was. I think it's the best one so far, and I was surprised because I knew before we watched it. I don't know if you mentioned it to me, or maybe I just saw it. That I knew before I watched the episode that Sam Simon had wrote it, and I know Sam Simon from The Simpsons, so I kind of just thought it would be a wacky, silly, funny episode. But it's certainly the most dramatic and well-written step into drama that they take, and I was pretty impressed with it.
Totally agree. What did you think, Ted? Did you like this one?
I loved the show. This was my favorite that I've watched in the first season so far, and we get the appearance of Shooter McGavin in there, which was always great to see him.
And another guest star that I forgot to mention this, the tutor that comes in at the beginning, the tutor.
Yeah, Francis Sternhagen.
plays Ted Danson's mother-in-law, Mary Steenburgen's mother, in Curb Your Enthusiasm season 1.
Absolutely, she's
all
done a
comes
lot of
around.
stuff. Yes, and she's a very talented character actress. I didn't like the cold open. It's the one thing I didn't like about the episode. That was really stupid. It goes back to your theory that Carl is the worst thing about Cheers. It was just a really stupid cold open. No one's gonna punch someone in a bar. It's just dumb.
Yeah,
But
I thought the idea was kind of funny, but I didn't love the way it was done. Really.
after that, the show is amazing. So Ted, when you started watching Cheers, this is your first time going through it. Did you think it would be this dramatic at points, or did that kind of blindside you?
So we're in about episode like 2 or 3, and I dragged Mrs. Ted into watching this with me. And she enjoys it as well, but she made a comment to me of like, I can see that this show at times is going to get pretty heavy. And this is really the first episode that you see a real different side of these characters, and obviously Sam. And
Right.
this show that I've noticed so far is at its best when Sam and Diane are going in that back and forth, where they're like teetering, not only playing like the will they, won't they thing, but also just the little jabs at each other. Like she knows that this guy is a pitcher for the Red Sox, so she kind of throws himself at him to like spite Sam. And then later on in the episode, she starts really getting to know Sam in a very intimate way, and they really play that well when they're having the whole conversation about the bottle cap.
Yeah, I thought it was really well, and I don't know how serious in the 80s, especially that early in the 80s, that alcoholism was handled, especially on television. But I thought they did an unbelievable job at handling the way someone would go through struggles like that. And they acknowledge that it might be a silly little thing, like it's his lucky bottle cap or whatever, but it's something that kind of kept him sane with that shit. And I thought I'm surprised at how well it was done that long ago.
It is kind of shocking. They did some stuff in the mid-'70s. I believe Maude had a storyline. It might have been her husband was an ex-alcoholic. But other than that, it really wasn't on TV a ton, or at least that I can remember when I was little. But you're right. It handled it really well. It didn't make it. It wasn't too preachy, but it definitely got the point across. And then Ted Danson is such a good actor. And Shelley Long's good in that scene too, but Ted Danson does a really fantastic job emoting, and there's a lot of silences in that. Like the last 6 minutes of the episode, there's a lot of silences. Things are pretty well drawn out. But then it has that great conclusion with him sliding the beer, and it's you felt like you had won something. You felt like you were victorious, just like Diane must have felt,
and they
and also relieved.
Considering it's an 80s sitcom, they made it kind of subtle. Like the fact that Cliff asked him to do that at the beginning of the episode, and that's the way he kind of shows that he's still got his touch. I feel like for that type of sitcom, it was kind of subtly done. They didn't beat you over the head with, hey, we're sending you a message here,
And I thought the facial tick thing was hilarious.
That was well done too. So
I didn't think it would get me as much as it did, because I thought it was going to be just kind of a throwaway joke for that one like scene near the beginning when they first talk about it, and then to bring it back at the end when it's like the most tense situation we've seen on the show, especially between these two characters who the show focuses on. For them to, after he does the big thing and is all happy, she's just like like freaking out.
Now maybe Ted will tell me to go fuck myself here because I'm looking too deep into the show.
Go fuck yourself.
If you want to hear my one plot hole, I guess maybe it needed to be baseball season for this to work with Sam, but it's clearly winter. First of all, the episodes we forgot to mention were both in December, or was one
November 25th, and then this one was December 2nd.
So it premieres in December. It's clearly wintertime. Both episodes reference it being cold. I think episode 9, they reference it being 30 degrees. I don't think the Sox are playing. Something doesn't smell right here, Ted.
Yeah, especially back in the 80s. I don't think they're going that deep in October usually, so.
Yeah, I don't know. But that was my only very minor issue with the episode. Other than that, I'm hesitant to give it a 90, but I'm leaning that way. I
give it a 90. It's the first time we've hit 90 on this. 90 is what I reserve for the best of the best in television, and this is 90.
What does it take to get 100 then?
Because it's not flawless. The cold open is weak. Okay. I also don't know if I 100% buy it. In real life, does Sam drink that drink?
I don't know. Sam seems throughout the series he does spoiler alert, folks. He does. I won't spoil
Oh,
it.
come
for Ted.
on.
Come on, you got Ted right
I
there.
take that back. I won't spoil it for Ted.
I thought
Wait.
this was episodes 9 and 10. The only reason I agreed to this.
All right, you're right. I won't spoil
And
it.
I gave him $50 too, but that's the only reason.
But there are other times where this comes up, and I think Sam's pretty well disciplined. It seems like it doesn't.
So,
He doesn't struggle. You're not constantly worried about Sam falling off the wagon.
the way I took the whole ending was he knew the entire time he would not drink that drink, but he wanted her to know how much he did used to struggle with this. And I believe there's a lot of truth in what he was saying at the end, but I don't think it's as bad as it is now, and he's that reliant on a bottle cap to actually make himself not drink.
Well,
I think that's a really good take, Ted.
Ted brings a whole new depth to this. I like this.
He's good, and
Ted
he's exactly right. I think that's exactly what happened. You're seeing it through Diane's eyes because he really cares about Diane, and he wants her to know that. The other thing I like about the show is it takes place like 2.5 years, 3 years after he had sobriety. So it does, it's not like it's a constant thread. It's something that he definitely battles with probably daily or, whatever, how often he thinks about it. But it doesn't feel as preachy or soap opera or like made for TV movie that he's dealing with all the time.
Right. And that's what I liked about this episode is it's not, hey, everyone take a knee. We're going to have an addiction episode, which you saw in a lot of very special episodes in the 80s. This was more, hey, this shit kind of happens, and we're going to address it because the main character of this show is a drinking problem. So we're going to have to address it once in a while. I thought it was very well done. I'll give it a 90 as well. Ted, what do you say?
Before we move off the episode, though, I do want to point out one funny comment that Diane makes, because when she really does think he's about to drink, her one last-ditch effort to make him not drink is to get super drunk herself, where she's just like, come on, I'll get loaded, I'll throw up, it's great. like he would just be like, all right, that would be pretty funny.
It was the 80s, Ted. We didn't know a lot about addiction back then,
Yeah, but no, out of 100, I would agree with the 90 on this one. I think it was a start to finish, great episode. I never felt like it went too long, like I did some of the other ones that have been, in the first 10 episodes. But this one, start to finish, the writing was there, the callback all made sense, and it had some of the best acting in the series so far.
90s across the board, so we're all in agreement.
That's
we
exciting.
Are now. Let me, as obviously a diehard fan of not only Cheers but this program, Ted, I wanted to run something by you. An idea I had. I haven't even mentioned this to Chris yet, so I'm curious Chris's thoughts.
I hate it.
We're getting well. All right, we're getting towards halfway through season 1. So we're at this is week 5. I think we've been doing this. So
yeah.
That means about 12 weeks will be a season. I'm thinking, because Menners, our guy Menners, has been critical of how are you going to keep this going. I wonder if every season, if we should have a rotating group of shows. And I thought if after we finish season 1 of Cheers, we go to the 3 shows I thought of doing, and maybe we could have a rotating group of 4. One of them is a little more difficult, I think. But I thought Seinfeld, Always Sunny, and All in the Family, to kind of span 4 decades of television. Do we like this idea or no?
So we're going to basically do this for like 20 years?
That's the idea, Chris. That's the idea.
I'm 40, Mike. I'm not going to forever.
I want you saddled to me for many years.
Good Lord. The whole joke is that like Cheers is going to take forever.
No.
Really...
This is a lifetime now. I've decided this is my gig for the rest of my life.
So does this tour not start until 2022 when this show ends?
That's right.
Or
yes.
Okay.
He's saying after
every
this season.
So after we do season 1 of Cheers, then we do season 1 of Seinfeld, then season
Lord.
1 of.
See, I thought for a second that you were gonna go with like Monday, okay, we'll call it Thursdays is Cheers night because everybody's already used to that.
Yes.
But maybe like Tuesday would be Seinfeld or.
Now that's interesting, Ted. We could recreate. You're an ideas guy, and I like that. We could recreate an entire block of programming.
So what I'm thinking,
11 seasons of Cheers isn't enough for Mike. Mike's like, you know what? We gotta add on even more.
But Chris,
all those shows have a minimum of 9 seasons, by the way.
I mean, I can spot when ironically when an idea has legs, and this one has it. Okay, so what we can actually do is, since these are all like quick hitting episodes, max like usually a half hour, set aside 2 hours on one day to tape these shows. because they're all taped anyways, and they're all episodes that already happened,
Right.
and then release them on different nights of the week.
Ted's an idea guy. I think we have to look into this, Chris.
I feel like I'm doing like volunteer work now. I've been like lassoed into some like Amway scheme where I'm gonna spend the next like 80 hours a week doing fucking crazy shit I'm not getting paid for.
No. I think this is gonna be big. I think you can jump off now, and me and Ted could have this $1 billion idea, or you could be saddled to me.
I'll be honest, I got nothing else to do. I'm in. I'm doing nothing else. Why not?
Ted, any other Cheers stuff you wanted to cover with us while we have you?
No, I'm just glad that I actually started watching a show. It's with lots of content that we've been going through recently. It's actually been some good watching and allowed me to catch up on the YouTube channel. And last week's episode with Steve was hilarious.
What's the next?
He can be so aggressive. He's just like, oh yeah, and then he raped her on the pool table.
Steve is definitely a different tact than you. You'll point out the subtleties of episodes. Steve will point out aggressive sexual acts that have to take place. Different styles, which add a lot to the show. What's the next? What do you think our next artistic venture is, as far as movies or television? You and me, I mean, shooting scenes.
I don't know. I think we got some stuff that we're kicking around. So, be on the lookout for stuff that might come out in the next couple of weeks or so.
Chris, anything else you wanted to get to?
No, I said you two are both beautiful filmmakers. I'll watch anything you guys put out. You guys
and Justin. I mean, Justin.
Of course.
Yes.
Some of those shots. And
without Justin, it doesn't work. Plain and simple. We could play house all day, but it doesn't get edited without Justin.
That's the sad part. We literally were playing house.
I said this on the show, but the moment where I looked at you in a rainbow cowboy hat or whatever you were wearing, I was like, well, this is fun.
Just staring straight up at you.
It's when you three get together, it's like Tarantino, DiCaprio, and Pitt. I mean,
it really is.
Magic
happens. A lot of people have said that, yes.
Like that whole day could have been so much worse than it was. It actually came together so well.
I do think I think the DVD will sell a lot of copies as well, because I think if Justin puts together some sort of bloopers reel, I think there's value there as well. It was a long day of filming.
And Mike trying to get the angry shout down when it wasn't actually called for, I think was like 20 minutes worth of outtakes.
I'm not good at I'm either talking or I'm yelling. I can't really get down passion without screaming. That's the only way I can convey it. But I think we got there eventually.
We know that about you, Mike. We hear you 3 hours a day, every day. We know that there's...
All right, you miserable cunts. Anything else before we get out of here?
That's it. We're back next week with 2 more episodes.
All right. We'll talk to you next week. Who knows what shows we'll be covering? No, it'll
cheers.
be Cheers.
It's going to be Cheers.
Keep watching. Sorry, we're closed.
Thanks.